Hello, this is Nate Gable, and welcome to AGB 245 Ag Risk Management. Today we're going to talk about managing production risk in agriculture. Agriculture producers are in the business of production, taking certain inputs and transforming them into outputs. In agriculture, production is riddled with risks that can negatively impact production levels and lead to significant losses. For a crop farmer, planting seeds does not guarantee a profitable yield at the end of the year. Output per acre likely varies by acre and year and can be suddenly devastated due to unforeseen weather factors such as drought, fire, frost. Wild animals, insects, weeds, disease, and other pests can negatively affect crop production levels. These and other unpredictable factors create a very real risk for crop producers. We all know that agriculture is risky. We are dealing with Mother Nature. We're trying to manipulate Mother Nature to produce a livestock or plant product that we can raise at a profit. We are not like a factory where we can just simply turn on machine and make more of it. Livestock and dairy producers must face risk tied to weather and animals and pests. Disease is a huge issue in the livestock industry. It is a very significant risk that could lead to reduced production or, in an extreme case, shut down an entire operation. Unknown or uncertain quality of inputs can pose risks to production levels. Yeah, when we're buying feed, hopefully we're buying a product, whether we're buying hay or distiller's grain or bean meal. Hopefully we're buying the product that we think that we're buying. But inputs can be a real risk in livestock production. The presence of any of these unpredictable risk factors can significantly lower production levels and lead to losses. Since production output is the main source of revenue for ag operations, it's crucial for farmers to recognize and manage production risk. There are many tools available to help farmers manage production risk. Tools depend on risk bearing willingness and ability. An understanding of the tools available can help producers develop marketing plans that can reduce those risks and increase profitability. We all know that there are risk management tools. If we are a crop producer, a risk management tool might be using herbicide. It might be using GMO seed like BT corn that's resistant to corn borers or rootworm resistant corn. But we do know that anytime we use a risk management tool, there's going to be an expense involved. And so whether we're vaccinating our livestock or we are um, purchasing real high quality feed, we know that those risk management tools are going to come at a cost. We are more willing to pay that cost if we are in a less able to take on risk. If we are a beginning farmer and we're highly leveraged, we have a lot of debt, we might not be able to accept the same amount of risk that someone who's been established farming for decades. One thing that we can do is diversify. Product diversification can help lower production risk for agriculture producers. By producing more than one crop or livestock product, farmers can reduce the risk of a total production loss. For example, a producer who operates a dairy and raises corn is not completely dependent on one product. Thus, his risk of a complete production loss due to an early frost would be less than a farmer who grows only corn. With diversification, choosing low risk enterprises can also help reduce overall production risk. Given a farmer's specific location, some crops may have lower yield variability in general, reducing the risk of production loss compared to a crop with high yield variability. Here in the Midwest, our most common crops are corn and soybeans. We know, of course, not with 100% certainty, but we know with a pretty high level of certainty that we're going to be able to raise a crop if we get into more risky crops, something maybe organic production, maybe fruit or vegetable production. We know that there's going to be more risks involved and more management required. Livestock enterprises that do well in warmer climates may introduce higher level of production risk in cold areas. When making diversification choosing those enterprises with lower risk given the farmer's specific situation can help lower production risk overall. It's also important to choose efficient and profitable enterprises. While diversification may reduce risk, it may also reduce possible gains from specialization. For example, a livestock producer who adds a wheat enterprise must shift time from managing his livestock enterprise to manage his wheat enterprise. Different machinery may be needed, learning time must be spent, and the new enterprise may increase profits by less than the decrease of profits in the livestock enterprise because of the shift of energy. It is therefore important to understand whether the added enterprise is efficient and profitable. While the yield may have very little variability and low production risk, if that yield is consistently unprofitable, then the enterprise diversification is not justified. So obviously, if we take on a second enterprise, a third enterprise, it's still got to be a profitable one in a high percentage of the years. Otherwise, we are simply losing money. We're not helping the operation. We must, if we are going to diversify, we must participate in enterprises which show us a good probability of turning a profit. Excess capacity. Production risk can also be reduced by maintaining excess production capacity. For example, in areas where weather conditions are commonly postpone planting, a farmer with excess machinery capacity or labor capacity will be able to catch up on planting to avoid that risk of a production loss. Again, it costs money. A planter like the one in the picture here would cost a lot more money than one of smaller size. It's true, the better the machinery that we have, the bigger the machinery that we have, the more capacity we have to get things done, the less risk we are at field operations. Having said that, again, it costs money to do that. It's a outlay of cash and capital to try to reduce risk. So once again, the cost of the risk management must justify um, the added benefit of lowering our risk. If we can't make the payment on this planter because we're not farming enough acres to justify the thing, then that excess capacity actually caused more risk, caused financial risk. Livestock producers with excess feeding capacity can reduce the risk of loss if there's a drought, fire, or some other event that makes feed unavailable. In other words, having hay on hand, having extra feed, having a year and a half's worth of feed on hand can help reduce risk. There again, the problem is it costs money. It costs extra money to have more than a year's worth of feed on hand. But as with diversification, the cost of maintaining excess capacity should be weighed against the benefits, lowering production risk when making management decisions. So we gotta be able to justify the cost of the excess capacity. Lease arrangements can be a good option in production risk. Utilizing lease arrangements can also reduce this risk. With crop share or livestock share lease, the farmer shares production risk with the landowner. For example, under a crop share agreement, the landowner receives a portion of the crop yield as a rental payment. This used to be a lot more common type of lease arrangement. Not so common today. Today it's more cash crop lease, and the reason for that is it's less risk for the landowner. Landowners don't like to take risk. And because of the competition for land, most land renters are willing to take on more risk just so they can get the landowner to rent them the land. So a share crop or share lease is something that is not as common as it used to be, but certainly does spread out risk for the tenant. In years where crop prices are good and yields are good, the landlord actually gets a higher lease, a larger lease. In years when the yields are poor or prices are poor, the landlord shares in the misfortune. So, once again, there is a cost to the farmer, this type of a risk management tool. And the cost is when times are good, we're going to pay a larger lease than a straight cash lease. But in exchange, when things are bad, when we have a bad year, we are able to share the loss with the landlord. In other words, our rent is actually lowered in a bad year. As it says here, if production yield is significantly reduced, the landowner also receives a reduced quantity and the burden of the loss is shared between the landowner and the tenant. I will continue with this PowerPoint in PowerPoint 2, Farm Production Risk Management. Thank you.